Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in and sticking with us here through our MSC showcase on day 5 of CMA Industry Week. And the education continues, shifting gears now to a completely other category, but yet another important reveal and unveiling as far as technology and products. I'm not here to give it away, but we are talking about Stinger radars, which are pretty much premium top-of-line radar systems distributed exclusively by MSC. I had the chance to sit down with Jim De Wilde and the crew from MSC to go over the entire offering, but pay attention because there's some important news and technology being unveiled in this session. It's a CMA Industry Week exclusive. Here we go.
Made for performance cars, Stinger VIP is the best we have ever developed. Top-level performance with the most refined radar, laser and GPS-based protection, and the most invisible laser receivers. Experience target view screens, and you will never have to wonder where exactly those speed traps are. It shows where the radar comes from ahead, the side, or the rear, if laser is shot at you from ahead or behind, and has a proximity indicator for GPS-based spot alerts. Dynamic sensitivity adds extra sensitivity right when you need it, at higher driving speeds. VIP has by far the highest accuracy available in Speedtrap protection. It takes measurement certainty to the extreme, with a precision of 0.0001 gigahertz. For true driving freedom, performance cars need Stinger VIP.
All right, so here we are. We're talking about Stinger radar protection, and we are lucky enough to have the CEO, the chief, the man himself, Mr. Jim De Wilde, joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today, Jim.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
So obviously, Larry and Chris can't talk enough about this product. I am super excited to learn about it and share this knowledge with everybody who's watching. Full disclosure, I am a total noob. Just because of where I live, unfortunately, I don't get to take advantage of products like this, but I've always been intrigued. So I'm really hoping that you can shed some light on this great technology and these high-end radar products that you have with us today.
We'll try to do so.
All right. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the brand, Stinger, the company, a little bit of the story behind it and how it came to be.
Sure. Stinger is a family business, always has been, still is. We started over 30 years ago. My brother and I and our parents are no longer with us, not in the business and not on this earth, but my brother and I are still running it, enjoying it. We are originally from Europe, the Netherlands, and 3 years ago or so, we actually moved to the US to be here and launch the brand after here in the US, after we took the brand and the products into many countries in the world. But like I said, we've been in business over 30 years. It was as a family, the four of us, we shared a strong love of freedom, which is not so strange given both our parents were very much like that. As my brother and I grew up, especially my dad, he was as a kid, he had spent a number of horrible years in the Japanese prisoners camp. Survived that. His mom did not. But then after that, anything to do with authority, growing up and later in his adult life too, he tried to push back as much as possible when that authority became a little bit overbearing. That's also how we started our business, because we had this shared love of freedom, also a shared love of driving and cool cars, and we felt that driving equates freedom. And then in Europe, more and more they started to increase the number of speed traps, and that didn't go down with us as a family. We felt they were encroaching on our liberty and freedom, and didn't feel good driving around anymore, and that's why we started Stinger back then. I truly think we are still to this day, and it started out like that over 30 years ago, we are the only real boutique developer in the industry. And that fact is what makes us different. If you look at the big corps, the big corporations, and you probably know the kind of businesses I'm talking about, they generally do management by spreadsheet. It's they look at the price points in the market, and they work a product towards those price points, and then they do their calculations, and some of them do really well, and full respect for those companies. But we do things differently. We work the other way around. We do not start with price points and spreadsheets. We have a complete focus on the product, and with that on the user experience from beginning to end. So for us, the user experience starts with the design and goes all the way to the actual performance in the car. And that's the all-encompassing objective, the user experience and how it performs. Just because of that, we always end up making high-end stuff. That's just because of that process. So at the end of all that comes, okay, now we're going to calculate if we launch a new product, or if we are going to launch a new product, how much does it cost? And 9 out of 10 times it means it's going to be high-end. That's sort of a logical end result of that process.
Just before we continue, so the takeaway, I mean, obviously, beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with us. So unlike a lot of the other products in the market, this is family owned still. It's not a big part of a big corporation or part of a bigger brand. Everything is in-house?
Correct. Yes.
Wow, okay. Very interesting. For a high-tech company, I think that's very something to be very proud of. It certainly stands out from a little bit of what's going on in the landscape of things.
Yeah. We're definitely proud of it. It's also incredibly fun to work in an environment like that, because we have the laser specialist in-house, we have the radar specialist in-house, we have the designers, and we all are a very small horizontal team working together. And because of this, having everything in-house and not outsourcing a bunch of stuff, it makes it easier to abide by our guidelines of making products that really work well in the car and enhance the user experience, because we don't have to take into account other companies' ways of doing things or products that don't really fit with ours and then try to make them work together. It's always one seamless integration, our approach.
Yeah, very, very cool. So obviously, we're with MSC, the team. We've got Chris and Larry with us. Maybe you can take a moment, Jim, and set up the relationship between Stinger and MSC.
Sure. One step before we started working with MSC, we already, for many years, this probably started 3-4 years after we started our business, we always said, we have to go into the US and Canada someday. We have to be there in the North American market. And the main reason is that this is where all the radar business started. And the whole industry grew from the US back in the 60s with the Fuzzbuster and whatever they were all called. Great if you read the history of the industry. And that had a certain pull on us already. Also, we started, I told you a little bit why we started the business, but also specifically my brother, Tom, already as a teenager, he would be reading those American car magazines like Road and Track and Car and Driver, and he would have come across these reviews and ads of the American radar detectors, and that spoke to him. And then when he came up with the idea, why don't we do radar detectors in Europe? And then we said, actually, that's a cool idea. So, and my parents being entrepreneurs and being the freedom lovers that they were on board immediately. And that's where we started the whole thing. So once we finally made it into the US, but this is 20, 25 years later, we were chasing our dream and we were very happy to come here. But just to go into the US market, it's a huge challenge, because also it's the market with most competition, most knowledge, fierce competitors. So we knew we couldn't just go in and say, hey, we're the guys who made it in Europe and we are a known brand there, and now you're going to have to start buying the product. It's way more than that. We had to make sure the product is perfectly adapted for the North American market. We know we're good at engineering. maybe even great. We understand promoting a brand, but we also knew from all the experience we built over the years going into other countries outside of Europe as well, that it's paramount to know your limitations. And for us, it was key to find the absolute perfect fit with a local specialist who really understands laser and radar, who truly knows what it is like to install Stinger products themselves. So they're not just going to try to sell it and say, here, installer or dealer, take the product and solve it. No, we needed a party that actually knew the product inside out and also knew everything about installing it. And we wanted to find a party that appreciates the difference between a truly high-end product and all the other systems that are available in the market. Last but not least, of course, we are also looking for somebody who could provide excellent service to go with that high-end kind of brand that we are. We had a very hard time finding such a business to work with. Until one day, I got a phone call from Larry, and at the time, MSC was a dealer of ours, and he had a bunch of questions and had some ideas, and that's how the ball started actually rolling. And getting to know Larry and his team, the whole of MSC, and I must say really the whole team, one by one, we could tick off those things like, wow, these guys really know laser and radar. Oh, wow, these guys are actually installing our product, and they're doing an awesome job, like among the best installers we have seen in the world. So that's how it all started, and we're very happy today that we did find them that way. So thanks, Larry, for calling us those years ago.
I'll tell you, Larry, that I probably can't get a better intro than that.
I got a lot to live up to now.
That's wow. Okay, let's just shift that over to MSC a little bit. We've got obviously Larry and Chris in the house here. Like Jim said, you were a customer first. So why don't you share a little bit about MSC's rich history with dealing and selling and servicing, products in the radar market?
Yeah, well, that for me really stems back to my childhood, very much like Jim and his brother Tom at Stinger. Is my father was an early adopter of radar detection. So before I was even old enough to even think about driving, my father was using some sort of speed detection equipment. So it always fascinated me. And with our retail store, fast forwarding to today, with our retail store here in Calgary, which is, I like to refer to it as our proof of concept for our distribution side, because those dealers that work with us know that our retail location is an open book to anything that our dealers want to know about what we're doing or how we're doing it. And it's a test bed for all that. So with radar and laser, it has become a major part of our business. Not has become, it's always been a big part of our business at the Calgary retail store. And working with the high-end automotive dealerships in town, and with the Ferrari Club and the Porsche Club, and just being in that group of cars. This is our workshop that you see the pictures of here. And this is a fairly normal summer day. We get a lot of these types of cars in, and what we would like our dealers to understand is radar. Everybody who owns a car goes fast. Let's be honest about that. It doesn't have to be a supercar. It can be any car. Everybody likes to go fast, and nobody likes the fact that they could get a radar or laser ticket. That's just something else. So in our audio side of the business, everybody loves music, but to a lot of them, it's good enough. But with radar and laser, you either have a great performing system or you get a ticket. That's the bottom line. It's black and white. So what we'd like our dealers to understand is the vast amount of client base that you have open to you in the radar laser business. It's amazing, and is a huge part of our business here at the retail store.
On that, I want to segue to a question to Chris. MSC, obviously, you guys are in bed with some pretty high brands on the audio side of things. So it's no surprise to me, anyways, that when it came to radar, you're going to also, align yourselves with some top-notch, high-quality premium stuff. But in line with what you're always messaging as far as knowledge and training to your customers, how does that apply when it comes to radar?
Very similarly to the audio side of our business, on the retail aspect, when dealing with radar systems, we take the same approach. It's all about educating, showing people what's possible, what can be done, getting people hands-on. So one thing, as Larry had mentioned, we're active members of the Porsche Club in our region. We're active members of the Ferrari Club in our region. We sponsor the BMW Club in our area. And one of the coolest things that having those relationships helps us do is build relationships with those guys. Actually get them in. We host tech nights, usually a couple of times a year, at least once a year for each. And we actually bring the clients into our facility here. We do a presentation on the technology, what's possible, and not just our technology like the Stinger system, but also what are the police using? What is radar? What is laser? What techniques are they using to use those against you? All of that kind of stuff. So the clients know what they're actually dealing with. It's just like audio. Everything's good enough until you know what's better and what's possible. So with these kinds of things, we like to bring these guys in, show them what the installed systems can look like. We have our own guns here, both KA band radar gun, a K-band radar gun, as well as a Dragon Eye laser gun. So we can do demonstrations. These guys can actually see how effective these systems can be. Once they know what's possible, then they can start to make the decision if they think that's going to enhance their drive and make their car and their machine a little bit more valuable to them.
Very, very cool. So I like how you multi-purpose that same space for both the audio side of things, and then of course use it for the exact same purpose for a different crowd, but yet very effective from a training perspective. You know what? I'm excited to get into it, guys. Let's shift the conversation here. Those watching, the dealers watching, they want to know everything there is to know about the Stinger Speedtrap protection system. Jim, I'm going to lean on you for this because this is why we brought you here. We want to hear from the horse's mouth. Let's get started. Where do we begin?
Well, I want to say that if you want to have a great protection system in your car, you need to be great against laser and radar. And you need to have a bunch of other things, but let's just say in general, laser and radar. So let's talk laser first. Let's not try to tackle both of them at the same time. Chris or Larry, can you show fiber laser,
Yes,
please?
I'll pull that up.
Okay, let me show Larry here. There we go.
So that is our fiber laser. And if you watch the video, you can see that there is a huge difference between our fiber laser and anything else that is available in the industry. And that's a very strong example of our focus on developing products for high performance cars, where we don't develop our products for anybody who wants to buy it. Of course, anybody's allowed to buy it and we welcome anybody, but our focus is on designing for high performance cars. And our fiber laser is a good example of that. So but also our customers simply hated the idea of having to put those bulky laser blocks on their amazing cars. It just doesn't sit right, and we couldn't work with that. So where others stop, we refuse to let go. When we think of a great idea, I don't know if others ever had thought about it, but we wanted to make fiber work. And we had a very hard time doing so. We just didn't want to give up. It was blood, sweat, and tears. But in the end, we did it. And laser is so incredibly small in surface area versus like those big blocks that were the norm in the industry. So in the end, we could only crack it by amping up the power output by more than 50 times in order to create a performance that you can expect from a product like Stinger, and still have these incredibly tiny fiber lasers on your car. Because Larry just showed the fiber lasers, but what you see in the car, and which you can also see on our website and in videos that we're showing here, it's only the tip of the fiber that will actually like peek out of the car. So it's incredibly tiny.
Yeah, let me just show what Larry's showing here. So it's just the gold tip at the basically the end of it.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
And we're going to cut to a video here describing this Stinger fiber laser. When we come back, we're going to talk to Larry and Chris about the performance of it all. Okay, so now we get a sense of what that's all about. Larry, my first question to you is, from your experience now, having obviously installed this many times, what is your opinion on the performance of this fiber laser?
Well, on the first part, from the physical part of it, our clients are way more happy with seeing this little tip on the front of their car, as Jim was explaining, rather than the black block. I wanted to get a little bit more in detail. This is the transmitter, and there's 4 laser fibers in here. And when you look at it from the front, if you were actually able to see the light, once the receiver takes in the signal from the police officer's laser gun, this fires out, and they call it the Gatling because it fires out. And they have to use these 4 fibers because the power that they're using and the heat that generates, they need to alternately fire these fibers to keep it working. So in order to keep things so small and yet have the power it needs, that's how they did it with the Gatling. So when we talk about the performance of the system, it's performance against the dreaded Dragon Eye. And let's face it, Dragon Eye is a very, very small market share of actual used laser guns in the world. Happens to be that, especially in Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver as well, we're seeing the proliferation of that gun almost exclusively now. So it is a big deal for us in the Canadian market. And it's very, very difficult. The difference, just quickly, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of technology, but the difference between an older laser gun that police used to use and the new Dragon Eye is the old guns were a fixed pulse rate gun. That's how laser works. Rapid blast of light. Up, 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 up. With Dragon Eye and a variable pulse rate, and it's not just Dragon Eye, we're going to see more variable pulse rate guns coming down the line. But a variable pulse rate gun, every time they squeeze that trigger, it's a different pulse rate of light. So what happens on the car that you have your laser jamming system in is its processor has to be fast enough to identify that it's Dragon Eye and then generate the jam code and output it. And we do that exceptionally fast, and we do it exceptionally well. So when we go out and test, as Chris mentioned, we own all of these various guns, and we verify the performance on a daily basis in our retail stores installations, because every car that we test or every car that we install gets tested. And we've learned a lot of stuff from that in terms of the importance of placement of laser shifters and angle to the laser shifters. And one of the most impressive things with the Stinger system is its ability for low nose cars. You will see a video on an Aventador S in this presentation to you. The center shifter system is about, or jamming system is about 6 to 8 inches off the ground, and we get jam to gun performance out of that car. It's uncanny. So for all the sports cars out there with the low nose that you've got to get the laser system in, there is nothing like the Stinger laser fiber.
Hey, Chris, we're about to play that video, but why don't you give us a little preface to what we're about to experience with this video, or what we're about to learn?
So the next one we've got coming up here was some testing that we had done on our Audi Q5. This is Doug out of our US office, his own vehicle that we installed the system in for our early testing, and wanted to put it through its paces against a couple of different guns, one being the Dragon Eye, testing at different ranges, shooting long distance, up close, varying speeds, all of that kind of stuff. We wanted to really put this thing through in a practical application, not a test or a review, not a foam mount, not taped in. You know, what is a professional shop going to do with this system? What is the average client going to expect from this kind of technology and small footprint? And let's put it up against the baddest of the bad and see what it does. So that's what we wanted to take a few minutes and touch on here.
And this was shot where exactly?
This was shot in Mesa, Arizona, just outside of our office.
Here's our 2018 Audi Q5 with the Stinger Plus system installed. The Plus system gives this vehicle protection from radar and laser from the front. And when we look at the beautiful front end of this car, you'll notice that there are no radar or laser parts visible. In fact, you'll have to really look closely to see the 3mm laser fibers that are installed here. And when they're placed appropriately on the front of the vehicle, it makes you virtually invisible to modern laser speed detection guns. So I happen to have 2 of the most popular guns used by traffic enforcement officers today: the Dragon Eye Compact and the True Speed. So we're gonna go out to the road, shoot the Audi and see what we come up with. Let's go. So here we are in our test track right next to our office. So you'll see that we've got cones set up at 1,500 feet down, at 1,000 feet, and then these two closer cones are at 250 feet and then 150 feet. So typically a traffic control officer would try to shoot anywhere between 850 feet away and 250 feet away. So we're going to do the true speed gun first, and we're just going to pick random cars and then acquire speed just so you can see how the gun works. Okay, so there's a red car coming down the street, and I'm shooting it. And I've acquired him. He's going 39 miles an hour at 875.5 feet. So this gun will read in both directions. If the driver's coming towards you or even away. So there's another truck that's going away from us, and that's 43 miles an hour, and he's at 1,323 feet. So you can see that even at a really far distance where you can't even see the car, you can actually acquire speed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Doug start driving the Audi, and we're gonna see if we can acquire his speed with the Stinger system on. Okay, so there's Doug down the street. I've got the true speed gun here, and I'm gonna try to acquire him.
Laser.
And I can't get him. I can't get him. I can't get him. And that's it. Totally blocked. So let's go from the true speed gun now to this Dragon Eye. So the Dragon Eye seems to be kind of the talk of the town. Everyone's talking about it. It's a pretty neat gun. It actually shoots a little bit nicer than the true speed gun. The true speed's got a magnifier in it. So this one's a little bit easier to hold. So let's just see. This is running a Dragon Eye, the latest software, version 5. So, and the Stinger system, we should be able to block it just fine. So let's give it a shot. Okay, ready. Okay, so here comes Doug now with another run. We're using the Dragon Eye gun. So he's at about 1,000 feet.
Laser.
Nothing. He's right on top of us. And that's it.
Well, I gotta say, guys, when you say you test it, you really do test it. I mean, I wasn't sure what you meant when you say, you take the vehicle out and you actually have the guns. I mean, these are the same guns that the law enforcement uses, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Very, very neat. Okay, moving on. From a user experience now, what can a customer expect as far as let's talk about the interface, Jim. Can you share with us a little bit about your concept design and what are the options when it comes to the interface for the user?
Sure. With everything we do, I said it at the beginning of this presentation, we take the user experience as the prime mover for what we do next. Same for the displays or the controllers. We have two. We have the strip and we have the view. Both displays look very good, I think, in those top car cockpits. Let's start with the strip. It's incredibly thin and small. It has backlit alerts. It's really, really sleek. It works with 3 touch areas, which you cannot see, but there's a middle part, left and right, and that's what you use to control it. And it guides you with voice. Very, very nice to have in your car. It almost disappears if you want to, and of course it will be there when you need it because of the sound alarm and the backlit alerts that you get. The looks alone of the strip make it the favorite of many of the Stinger customers we have out there in North America and elsewhere in the world, because it's just so tiny and so easy to install in a great way, as MSC and many of our dealers in the US and Canada do. Where a strip blends in, our other display, the view, actively enhances what I call the fighter pilot feel of a car cockpit, and because it's still compact, but it has full graphics, full touch. It gives you total control. If you want the view display, it's still plug and play if you want to, but it also comes with a whole bunch of very cool advanced features, which you don't need to use, but if you want to, they're there. My personal favorite is, as you can see in the beginning video of this presentation, I think, is the spectrum analysis screen, where you actually see the spectrum of all the radar you pick up in your environment. And I love driving around with that because I can immediately see with the high peaks that the view display shows you, like, okay, this is really police. So that's strip and view, and it really depends on your personal preferences which one to go with.
All right, I got two questions for you, Jim. If I'm just going to go back to this first slide here.
Sure.
So what you're saying is behind that rectangle within the illumination, there is actually 3 buttons within that you can feel.
There's the 3 areas.
Okay, 3 areas.
It's really one smooth area, but we separated it into 3, and the middle one is for which setting you want to work on, and the left and right is minus and plus, or like softer and louder, or spinning through the settings. So that's how you control it.
Okay, very clean. And how does it interface for audio?
Oh, it's hooked up to a speaker.
Its own designated speaker somewhere in the car, or through the sound system of the car?
It could be either, whatever you want.
Okay, interesting. And for this one here, is that the same? Was there also an auto a voice to it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just to add to that, Ben, the strip controller is a capacitive touch panel, so very similar to your phone or your high-end aftermarket touchscreen radio. Okay. And then there's 3 zones to get through there, and same with the view. That's also a capacitive touch panel. So I
had a feeling that's what you're saying. It's just so hard to show that in a slide, but I'm sure when you feel it, everything makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. Very, very cool. Okay, so there you have it. There's the strip that's illuminated, and then you have the full out
the view,
the premium option.
Yes.
Okay. So Chris, or Larry for that matter, are there any examples of how this works in real life, or how it looks and feels in real life that we could show the folks watching?
Yeah, so with the strip, as you've seen in the first picture, there's lots of ways to integrate that, but we really like the view because of the additional information that it can give you. Quick feedback, has the ability to do directional information for both the radar and laser with the appropriate sensors. So really cool capability wise, but can be a little bit trickier in terms of the integration. So we actually wanted to feature this 2020 Lamborghini Aventador S that we just recently finished up. We came up with a really cool idea for mounting that kept it accessible, still OEM kind of a feel to it that ties in with a lot of the designs of newer cars and stuff in there. So if we've got a minute, we can take a quick peek at that.
Yeah, let's go to that video, because I think that's the same video that Larry referenced earlier on when he was talking about the fiber laser as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's watch that video and then we'll talk about it when we get back.
We wanted to take a minute to give you guys a little bit of insight into the integration of this view display into this 2020 Lamborghini Aventador S. The biggest of the bulls gives us an amazing car to work with, but space inside the cabin is obviously quite limited. So what we wanted to do was give something that was easily visible from the driver's position, just like the other control networks in the car. So in this case, we've mounted the display right up front, right in the middle between the vents. So we've got a machined aluminum post in behind the scenes to secure everything in place and keep that easily accessible. One of the unique things of this car is that it is a roadster as well. So with this package, we wanted to make sure that should the car be left somewhere with the roof panels off, this was easily removable. So using Stinger's magnetic mount, you're able to take this off, tuck it away, or take it with you. When you return to the car, it can quickly snap back in place and everything comes back to life. Moving to the front of the car, you can see the rest of the system that's installed in here. So this car features the Stinger Extreme package, which uses the patch array antenna, which is hidden in behind the bumper cover, and 3 sets of the laser fiber. Laser fibers, as we always want to cover the most square footage of the front end as possible, the 3 sets are evenly dispersed across the front end of the car. The first sets are directly below the headlights, offering protection from the most reflective surface on the front end of this car. One on the other side, and a central set mounted just underneath the nose right here. Even with the low nose height of this car, the Stinger system doesn't have to play by the height restrictions of a lot of systems out there. So these sensors installed on this vehicle here, between 10 and 14 inches off the ground, still offer jam-to-gun performance.
Hey, wow. First of all, how come Chris gets to play in freaking Aventador S? Is that what you do every day, Chris?
Well, we pay him big bucks, you know, Ben.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. Great video, very descriptive as usual, Chris. Thank you very much. But I told in the top of this video, I am not an expert by any means with radar. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that all I've ever heard is, you can't mount the sensors too low. And here you are blowing my mind that you can go low, because let's be honest, a lot of the cars that we featured in the previous slides about all these sports cars and supercars, they are low. So is this like a unique solution that owners of these type of vehicles should be celebrating?
Yeah, there's always things, always rules with any product that you're installing into the vehicle that need to be abided by. And one big thing that we've battled with for years as we've been in this market, dealing with these cars and these clients, is sensor placement. When we look at some of these cars, whether it's width-wise, whether we're dealing with grills that need to be cut, modified, on these exclusive cars, or just sheerly massively expensive cars, those panels can become insane if they become modified, let alone if they start to factor in permanent modifications to ultra rare cars. It's just not a viable option. So Stinger's provided some really, really cool capabilities on that front in terms of their physical size and where they can go, but also not being limited by things like height. That Aventador, that center set is roughly 8 inches off the ground when the nose is lowered, about 8.5 inches. So ridiculously low. There's not a spot on that car that you can mount a set of sensors like that exceeds 15 inches. It just doesn't exist. So having a system that's sensitive enough to pick those signals up, but also intelligent enough to know what's being transmitted and filter through the background mess to make sure it stays locked on the incoming signal that's an actual threat to it, is hugely important. And that's something that we've never been able to not worry about, like we've been able to not worry about it with the Stinger platform.
Well, you said a key word there, and that was going to be my next question, and that is false detection, false alerts, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this has kind of been one of the biggest challenges with any system over the years. What does Stinger stand for? When it comes to that, because that's really what the customer wants to know.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll take. Oh.
All ears.
All right. Radar has become, false alerts on the radar side have been a big problem with the use of K-band radar for things like lane departure warnings and parking assist and pedestrian alerts and all that kind of stuff. An older K-band radar detector becomes almost useless, especially in town. And on the highway, you'll be burning it up and you'll hear a K-band alert, and that could be that Acura that's coming up on you instead of a police car. So we are super, super proud to be on this presentation doing a worldwide debut of Stinger engineering gone crazy. These guys are going to totally shock the world with this new release, and we're super excited about it. We've kept it under the radar for quite a while, and I'm going to.
That was a good one, Larry.
Hey, I even caught myself there. I'm going to turn that over to Jim, and as I say, this is a very special moment for us and for all of our dealers and clients, as this is, as I say, the worldwide debut of this product.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, I'm also incredibly stoked to announce the launch of our new radar antenna. We call it the S8 because it's the 8th radar antenna we have developed in the history of Stinger. The S8 is an incredible feat by our engineers because we combine 3 major technological radar breakthroughs in this one new antenna. So it's not just one new thing or two, no, it's 3. The first one we call Stinger Artificial Intelligence 2.0. We have had AI in our Stinger systems for well over a decade. But I'm so proud of our engineering team because next-gen AI is a game changer. You already touched upon it a minute or two ago, and I always like to ask people, what do you think is the radar detector user's number one complaint? And a lot of people guess, oh, it's like, I do not get a warning. No, the number one complaint is actually false alert, or falsing, as we call it in the industry. It just drives people crazy, and especially, of course, if you drive a really nice car and you're not just driving it for fun and testing your radar detector, then it's nice to hear it go off. But if you drive with it every day, it drives you completely nuts. There's another pun for you. Our new antenna is by far our quietest ever, and that's all because of our next-gen artificial intelligence. Like I said, we've used artificial intelligence for a long time now, but what our tech guys did is truly amazing. They've built artificial intelligence-powered filtering that is at the same time humanly clever and like computer beast kind of fast. And combining the human intelligence part of it with this incredible speed has created sort of a beast. And as a result of that, we can eliminate a lot of false alerts that you had to suffer through until now. Specifically, Larry talked about this, what we call BSM falsing. It stands for blind spot monitoring. It's generally the term, but it also includes the kind of falsings you get from collision avoidance systems on cars, adaptive cruise control, things like that. They are so hard to distinguish because BSM signals use modulated radar. To keep it very simple, it's basically a pattern of skipping frequencies. And because it is a pattern, the system itself will recognize its own signal. But if you don't know what the pattern is, it's hugely difficult to recognize. But because of our next-gen artificial intelligence, we can do that wonderfully. We can just pick them out and just very comfortably say, okay, you are a collision avoidance system, you're a blind spot monitoring system. We can, in many instances, even say what car brand is emitting the signal. And the result of that is peace and quiet in the car. And that is just amazing. There is a second breakthrough, and we call it 3D radar tracking. We also call it parallel scanning because both terms tell the correct story of what it does. Parallel scanning, it performs real-time and simultaneous, not sequential, but simultaneous tracking of multiple threats out there. Because of our record-breaking speed that I already mentioned for artificial intelligence, but also because of our next-gen Linux OS. We've been using Linux OS for a long time, but also next-gen ARM-based computers. As well, now for the first time, we're using 6 independent processor cores. We can create this not only speed, but also this monster with 69 eyes, as I often call it, because we can keep an eye on many, many things at the same time. And the speed now is so fast of this new Stinger that we're now faster than even the fastest police radar out. Basically, 3D radar tracking or multiple scanning, or parallel scanning, applies our artificial intelligence 2.0 in a simultaneous multitude. So we use our artificial intelligence, and that was already a breakthrough in and by itself, but we can do it now looking at this, that, and all the other threats that you come across in modern traffic. Because if you're in the city, as Larry mentioned, or you're on the highway, you pick up all these different radar signals. And if you don't have the artificial intelligence and you don't have the capability of looking at them all at the same time, you're going to be lost. You're going to be killed by all the radar signals out there. What our engineers did here is really something special, and I salute them for it because of what they combined in technology and the breakthroughs they created with 3D radar tracking. we can actually keep an eye on all those different radar threats. Then there is a third breakthrough. It's called omnipolarity. It's another industry first. Radar detectors traditionally can only optimize against one kind of radar orientation, as we call it. Either, let's simplify it because there are more kinds, but simplified, it's either horizontal or vertical. As you can see in the picture, many radar sources use vertical, but modern radar speed traps also use horizontally polarized radar. The fact that radar detectors traditionally can only optimize against one or the other kind of radar polarization, and usually it's vertical polarization that they're optimized for, that can be a huge issue when you encounter the wrong kind of radar. So if your radar detector, your antenna in your car is optimized for vertical radar and you come across a horizontally polarized radar,
you get a ticket.
You may well get a ticket or a very late alert, and that makes it dangerous and not fun to drive around with anymore. Well, that for us is no longer an issue. Due to our omnipolarity, as it is called, Stinger radar is now optimized against horizontal, vertical, or anything in between. Also, the anything in between is actually relevant because in the real world, a lot of the radar signals that start out as one kind of polarization, because of reflection, they're not exactly horizontal anymore, but they also do not become purely vertical. There's something in between. That's just how it works, the laws of nature. But for our omnipolar radar antenna, that doesn't make a difference at all. We're always optimally prepared and ready for it. So vertical, horizontal, or anything in between is all fine. And with the new Stinger antenna, the S8, it's no longer needed to get caught by horizontal radars like red flags, which is an issue in many areas in the world. I'd like to mention one final thing about these three breakthroughs. I've already alluded to it or actually named it here and there. The three breakthroughs work in synergy. One builds on the other. Like the 3D radar tracking builds on the artificial intelligence, because it uses AI 2.0 to be able to keep track of all the different threats. And then with omnipolarity, you optimize the whole thing, because whatever the kind of radar polarization, we can still optimally keep track of it, recognize it, and alert for it if needed. So those are the three breakthroughs.
Wow, that was a lot to digest. Hold on. Let me gather my thoughts here, because that was a lot.
Sure.
Larry, help me out here. Where do we begin with what he just said?
Well, we are so excited to launch this into the market, because it is unlike any other radar antenna out there, and it will truly solve a lot of common client complaints or questions about how a radar detector works. Because basically, you don't want a science project every time you get in the car. You just want to get in, drive, enjoy your drive, enjoy the freedom of the drive, and be alerted when there's actual police radar or laser around. And that's what the new Stinger system is going to do. So we thought we'd give you just a tiny little sneak peek. So Ben, if you want to pull up that picture, and this is a prototype version of the new S8 head from Stinger. So again, a total game changer in terms of radar technology, and we couldn't be more proud to represent Stinger in the market. And with our support to our dealers, we're going to do a lot of cool things. So.
Okay, now I've gathered my thoughts. I'm ready to ask you some questions. Those features that Jim just went through, I just want to be clear. Are these unique to Stinger, as never existed before until now?
Correct.
Because it seems to me that some of those are pretty darn important. Like I just learned right now, for example, the frequency, that there's horizontal and vertical. And now you have an antenna that can pretty much cover 360 degrees of radar coming to you. So what that means to me is every other radar out there is only good for certain types of radar, not all types of radar.
I wouldn't say it like that. I would say any other radar antenna out there is not optimized
Okay.
for any type of radar polarization. And
This one is, though.
This one is, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Very good. And my second question is, you know, you were explaining how there's so many different things happening, the cruise control, the blind spot, the different radar signals that you're sensing. Right now, with what's on the market, is that what you're saying causes all the false triggers? Is the fact that there's so many different signals always happening at the same time, and the current units can't differentiate them as efficiently?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, that was the takeaway. Chris, what does this mean in the real world with this new technology that Stinger is introducing?
The biggest thing, like Larry said, clients are always looking for something, but the one thing they're not looking for is a science project. They don't want to have to put a bunch of work into it. They don't want to have an engineering degree to use the thing. They want to just get in and go and be alerted when there's something they need to know about, and have the thing just shut up every other time for every other mile on the road. So these technologies that Stinger's developed is going to do a much, much better job than anything we've seen to this point of stripping out that background noise, those false alerts from blind spot monitoring, collision avoidance, the sliding doors at your grocery store. I mean, there's a million radar sources out there. It's used for all kinds of different aspects, and we need to be able to filter out that background noise to hone in on the important stuff. And with the sensitivity and range that Stinger's been known for, plus these developments on the technological aspects of it, are going to be absolutely revolutionary. And that, in conjunction with one of the coolest, most capable laser systems on the market right now, we are so excited to see what Stinger can do and take this thing to the next level in performance that we've never seen in this category before, with a ground up, purpose built, complete package. That's to me what this whole thing comes down to. Is there's no add-ons, there's no extras, there's no third parties. This is one piece designed in conjunction with itself, with one goal in mind. And man, these guys have taken it to the limit this year.
I'm going to summarize for you guys. You know, we're talking about a family-run company, not part of a big conglomerate. It's in-house engineering, in-house technology, with obviously a lot of decades of experience, but also still a passion to push the envelope and bring new things to market. We're talking about a stealth install. Like I never expected to be that stealth, from the tip of that fiber optic to, you know, the strips, even the interface, you know, even the triple with the illumination. I mean, so stealthy, people wouldn't even know what that is. Of course, it's a little cool with the LCD panel, but as you've seen in the video, you can actually remove it with the magnetic plate. So I think that also is a great solution for a lot of guys or women, people. And now to introduce all these new technologies that filter the noise and really, you know, get it back to what the customer is paying for, which is peace of mind. Like all this fancy words and all that. At the end of the day, they just want to know that this is going to work for them, and it's not going to complicate their lives, and it's not going to be annoying. And it really just kind of it vanishes, really, is what it does on a daily level, until it needs to be there to do what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to bring it back to you, Jim. You know, we did full circle. Thank you so much for sharing this new information, new technology with us, and being with us. So what message do you have for North American customers looking at this video saying, man, you know what, I might want to take a look at that Stinger system?
Well, I would say go to stinger.com or find MSC and find one of our Stinger dealers in Canada or the US. I'd like to stress one thing that you just hit upon in the end, Ben, and that is that it's all about laser experience, user experience. Take, for instance, some radar detectors out there have great sensitivity, but that is completely useless if you get loads of false alerts along the way. There's just no use driving around with something like that. Also, user experience is, and you touched upon this as well, is you want everything to be harmonious in one system. You need seamless integration, and for that you need to, I think, take a hard look at Stinger, because I think we can deliver that. Finally, I really enjoyed being here. I enjoyed being part of this presentation. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your attention. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being an innovator and bringing us cool stuff to talk about. You know what? We're going to go back to studio where we can discuss this a little bit more. Again, thank you so much, Jim, for joining us and sharing all this great new tech, including that brand new antenna.
Thank you.
So there you have it, a world premiere of brand new technology from Stinger, world-class radar systems, brought to you by MSC. So if you're interested in this product, make sure you contact MSC, and I think they could set you up. And if you have those type of clients that demand the very best, I don't think there's any question. That presentation pretty much covered it all. All right, that's the end of this session. Thanks for tuning in and continuing to tune in as we can bring you live coverage from CMA Industry Week. We're going to continue with MSC for another few sessions here. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.